Welcome to Kentucky Society of CPAs Behind the Numbers. I am your host, Kimberly Lindsay, KYCPA's Communications, Marketing, and Creative Director. Today, I welcome Whitney Bishop, Change Agent. She is going to discuss how we are able to harness the power of disruption. Good morning, Whitney.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you, Kimberly.
Not a problem.
All right. So stuff's gotten kind of wild out there, huh?
Oh, yes.
The way we live, work, and play has been disrupted in the most incredible ways. This is so far beyond um, your your bridge construction and the traffic that we dealt with for a while and how inconvenient that was to the way we got around town. And everybody knows that when you rearrange your grocery store that nobody likes that, right? But school schedules and just so much has converged that it has made it extraordinarily disruptive to every facet of our lives. And while that can take some people down, it can also be an opportunity. And that's what I want to sort of talk with people about here today is while some people may be finding their way to that level, there's a reason why dealing with change and disruption feels the way it does. And we're pretty predictable when it comes to how we handle that. So a little comfort in knowing that you're handling this just about as well as anybody can, no matter how it is that you're handling it. So give you a little bit of a background about what is a change agent. So I am a facilitator and consultant and coach. I've long worked with nonprofit organizations and entrepreneurs, inside organizations and outside organizations to help affect positive change through personal and professional development experiences, strategic planning retreats, any of those things that help people have better conversations and create better habits, routines, and practices to get the work done. Change has never been, nobody's ever really been a fan of change in those roles. And now even less so because of this, the just layers of it that are happening. So part of my training as an educator has been around adult learning theory and why people respond to things the way they do. And this has brought out some of our best and some of our worst, I'm afraid. So there's a few different change models that that kind of help illustrate where we are. And I'm going to make sure that Kimberly has these to put up on the webpage and the show notes for you all, but I want to just kind of talk you through a couple of them. One of them is sort of this idea of a resistance curve. And it kind of follows along with the stages of grief. So initially when people are dealing with change, on this axis is kind of morale and competence, and then on this bottom axis is time. So over time, your morale and competence goes down, dealing with shock and denial and frustration, and then depression and experimentation kind of settle in down here in the middle of that, and then experimentation, decision-making, integration sort of help people move out. Now, that's just one change. Now, all of these changes, you could be at different places along the path. And so therefore you have different levels of energy available to you, different resources available to you, and different external factors that are having an impact on your ability to help drive positive change, because everybody is at a different place in that curve at any given moment. Now, another model that helps us understand why change feels the way it does is William Bridges's model. And that is really about that change begins with an ending. And nobody likes endings either. We're not great with endings in our culture. And so change begins with an ending of the way things are. And this was pretty abrupt for the most part. Then you move into this transition zone, and then you move into the new beginning. Well, here's the problem with that for us right now is we don't know what the new beginning looks like, and we don't know where it is, and it keeps moving. And therefore, we don't have the benefit. Typically in change management, we're telling people, get them attached to the new beginning. And we can't do that right now because it's moving. So if you listen to our governor, he is doing what I think is a really amazing job at helping people deal with this transition zone, which is the place where people feel most confused, most anxious, where performance is lowest, and where needing to be connected to the why is really, really important. So he's not promising that this is what it's going to look like in the new normal. What he's saying is we have to show up for each other. We have to be patient. We have to be strong. We will get through this together. And he's focusing on the fact that we're in a place that feels awkward and uncomfortable, and that's where we're going to be for a while, and we've got to be strong. So I feel like he's done a pretty good job, and his communications have done a pretty good job of trying to keep us anchored in the reality and the knowledge that it is going to pass, but that he can't paint a picture of what that looks like and that it's ever changing. So that is normal for people's anxiety to peak, for their performance to dip. And then if you add that they're trying to deal with different situations at home, like homeschooling or dealing with toddlers or caregiving, or not being able to visit family members and take care of them the way they need to, there's an extra layer of emotional stress that shows up. And everybody knows that when you're under stress, you don't make the best decisions about almost anything. You know, how much rest you get, how you handle things. So that's where, in most cases, what I would tell people is around times of change, people need more time, more information, and more input, right? They want to be consulted. But now people need even more. People need more clarity. They need more support. They need more connection. And for heaven's sakes, they need more grace. I mean, we've got to give each other more grace during this time, and to really hear when people ask for what they need and do our very best to manage expectations as best we can. And so that's kind of a big shift from where I would normally be working with people, to say attach to the new beginning, give them more time to process it, more information, and more input. And now they need so much more from leaders and from each other that we weren't used to giving. A lot more emotional support and a lot more flexibility. So the two things that I want to share with people is, one is you've got to pause, because I'm going to hate to be the one to break this to you, but you can't fix it. And there's a lot of people out there who just want to fix it and just make it better and go back to the way things used to be. And that is not going to be our reality. And so for people who want to fix it, this is so frustrating. And I know that numbers people like to fix it, and they like to have definite stuff. And this is making things so difficult for that. So you can't fix it. Resist the urge to fix it. Pausing is the greatest thing that you can do. And your opportunity is to stay present for it and to lead through it instead of trying to shove it down, survive it, and then get to the other side of it. You are being called to a higher level of service to yourself, to your clients, to other people in this moment. So how can you stay present for it and lead through it? And that takes pausing and reflecting and breathing. So everybody do that with me right now. Take a nice big deep breath. Repeat after me. I don't have to fix it.
I don't have to fix it.
I can't fix this.
I can't fix this.
But I can stay present for it, and I can lead through it.
I can stay present for it, and I can lead through it.
Yeah. So hopefully that provides you with a little bit of help. And then here's another thing that I've heard recently that I just love. How can I be an island of calm in a sea of chaos? I just think that that is such an interesting way to pause and think, all right, in this moment, how can I, as a leader, as a client, as a friend, as a family member, as a colleague, how can I be an island of calm in a sea of chaos right now? What questions could I be asking myself and others in this moment to help us move forward, or to accept where we are and create some positive change? Here's something else that you might not know about yourself or other people. But your brain is actually not capable of being positive and creative at the same time as it's being critical and negative. It literally is not capable of that. So if you need to come up with a creative response to this, you're going to need to get to a better place in your head in order to be able to do it. So your other invitation, besides realizing you can fix it and that you can be present through it, for it, and lead through it, is to remember that creative and reactive have the same letters, but very different impacts. So if you're going to be creative, you're going to have to pause. You're going to have to shift into a different frame of mind in order to be able to do it. Reactive is where you're just putting out the fires and you're trying to fix it or make it go away, whatever the uncomfortable symptom is. And that is, that's going to exhaust you. It's going to wear you out because those hits are going to keep coming in terms of how the guidelines are impacting how you show up for everything that you do. And the invitation is to try to get to a place where you can be creative. That is where your power is. And don't forget that. All right, so one of the questions and one of the things that I've been doing in my work with individual clients as well as groups is, at what point in your day could you introduce a powerful pause, right? A purposeful pause. Is it, if you're working from home, instead of now you don't really have a commute, you commute from the bedroom or the kitchen to the guest room or the kitchen table or wherever it is that you are. But is there a moment that you can sit and pause and take a deep breath before you just dive in and begin to react to everything that's popped in? Can you take a moment to get clear about what are my priorities? What's the most important thing? Can you take a moment at lunch to get outside? What are some other ways that you could create some intentional pauses so that you can come back to center, being grounded, being focused, being really present, instead of just racing through and getting to the end of the day and thinking, what was that? And now I've got to make dinner. And where did all these other people come from? You know, we're supposed to be distancing. Why is the house full of people, right? What happened while I was at work? So, all right. So we've talked about pausing and the importance of that. We've talked a little bit about change and why that feels the way it does. And so now I want to introduce you to this idea of how to pivot. I think we're so, sometimes we get so stuck on how to do things the way we've been doing them, that when we're constantly asked to do things a different way, we just sort of short circuit. So I'm going to share my screen with you for just a moment. And I'm going to show you a fan favorite. This is one of my clients' absolutely favorite tools. Can you see that okay, Kimberly? Is that showing up for you?
Yes.
Wonderful. So this is the model for managing complex change. And this is basically, the first time I saw it many, many years ago, I said, well, this is just the truth. This is how change feels. So moving from vision to success, what this chart asserts and this model asserts is that when you have a clear vision, when people have the skills they need to do what they're being asked to do, when there are incentives in place for doing it, when there are resources available to do what they're being asked to do, and there's an action plan, there is successful change. Well, I think you can see the problem we're in right now. Each one of these, while we might, in normal circumstances, we might have real success in each one of these areas and real clarity, and now all bets are off. And so we have to realign with what is the vision for getting through, not this year, not the next 90 days, today, or this phase of the reopening plan, or this next week, or this next event. Like, the vision has come down to this micro thing that we need to think about. And that's important to be able to do it. And so whether you're now managing a remote team, and maybe it's a remote team that's not accustomed to working remotely, and so they're having some productivity and attention challenges, and you're not meeting or seeing each other in the way that you once did to share information freely. As a leader, stepping up and saying, all right, what is the vision for this day or for this project or for this week, whatever that is, getting clear about what is that vision at this micro level. And then, all right, what are the skills I'm going to need? What are the skills people are going to need? How many of you have experienced people who, since they don't have an IT person in the house with them, are experiencing some technical difficulties every time you try to get up? They're probably getting better at it by now, as we're 6 weeks or 8 weeks into this thing. But people are requiring, their different skills are being required of them than they've ever had before. And what this chart also will show you is that when you don't have the skills missing, what do you get? Anxiety. When the vision is not there, this chart says you get confusion. And a confused mind takes no action. That's true too. So incentives, what are the incentives for doing this? This is where I think our governor is doing a good job. He's trying to say the incentives are more lives saved, right? More, if we can stay this course, we're saving lives. And we know this, we're looking at the curve, and this is what we know we're doing. So that is an incentive for us to stay in line and to do what's being asked of us. So what are the incentives for your folks? Right? What are the incentives for them for doing this work? And if you don't have incentives, then there's resistance. If people just can't get behind the fact that my doing this is going to have a positive impact on a lot of other people, then they're going to be resistant to it. And we're seeing that, aren't we? We're just really seeing that. When the resources are missing, you get frustration. We see that all the time right now, people's unemployment and their benefits and all of the different things that not having school for their school-age children, having to deal with the technology associated with and the time associated with helping them with their virtual learning experience. So that's frustration. And then when no action plan, it's just false starts. It's activity as opposed to action. So I just feel like when people see this, they can sort of breathe a sigh of relief and say, okay, I don't have to figure everything out. All I need to figure out is, what is the vision for this thing that I have to do? What are the skills that I need or somebody else needs? What are the incentives in place for me getting this done? What are the resources I'm going to need? And the truth is, you don't have to fix that either. If people don't have the resources they need to do what they're being asked to do, it's okay to acknowledge that. Do the best you can with what you have. And that's all we can ask of you, right? Unless you're capable of giving them the resources. But it's okay to not fall into the trap of feeling like you have to provide something that, due to an external circumstance, you simply can't provide. I can't provide you with an information about exactly what day this is going to end and everything magically reforms back. I can't do it. And that's really hard for some people. Really, really hard. And that gets in the way of their being able to do it. So Kimberly, as you take a look at this chart, what is the first thing you think of?
Well, I can think of ways that the society staff has done some of these things,
Yeah.
and I feel that our vision is to empower Kentucky CPAs.
Mm-hmm.
We took the skills that we have, and we made sure that we had the resources to do our
Mm-hmm.
jobs at home, and we have an action plan really of how we're doing that now at home.
Mm-hmm.
We have a weekly meeting with on Friday
Mm-hmm.
with the rest of the staff, and we talk about the high level to-dos or
Mm-hmm.
concerns and what our plans are, our action plans for as
Yeah.
things start returning to the office,
Mm-hmm.
when we're going to do that, how we're going to do that. Those are
Exactly.
just in the infancy
Yeah.
stages. And a lot of our CPAs that have businesses, what resources are we providing to them
Mm-hmm.
to get through this, and asking them what they need.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
And
that's great.
so those are some of the
Yeah.
things we've done.
And I think that at any point, any member could look at this and say, even for me individually, what is my vision? What are the skills I'm missing, or what are the skills that I'm needing? Do I have everything I need? And then my team, do they have everything they need? My customers, my clients, do they have everything they need? What are they needing right now? And so if nothing else, you could spend time in a room or on Zoom or on the phone coming up with ideas for how to do it. But what if you had a framework, something that helped you step through? And that's what this represents. It's another way of pausing and slowing down instead of just trusting, I know everything I need to know and we're just going to move forward, but really backing up and saying, hold on a second here. Let's ask some different questions and let's do this together so that we can be on the same page, literally right here on this page. So that would be my other question for people is how could you leverage this in a staff meeting with a client for yourself as a way to help you not only pause, but also to pivot, right? To be able to figure out, all right, if our vision was to do this for this year, we understand now we've got to take a different look at that. And so what is the vision for X? And really breaking it down into smaller bits, because that is where you're going to have the most control, and it's where you're going to be able to be the most creative. And being creative is energy giving instead of energy extracting. And so that's the other thing that we need to realize is that our energy is being, there's a lot being demanded of us personally and professionally right now. And there's so much happening out there that we can't control. But doing our best to bring a little bit of clarity and a little bit of quiet to a situation so that we can be creative is the greatest gift that we can give ourselves and others. Help us stay present, lead through it.
Well, thank you so much,
You're so
Whitney.
welcome. It was my pleasure, and I'm honored to be asked to come on this podcast with you. I love the work that you all are doing. I love the way you all think about how you show up and serve your members. And I think that membership organizations right now are in a unique position to really navigate and help lead some pretty powerful changes for your members moving forward. So thank you for the way that you lead and that you're staying present through it and leading through it. I really appreciate about you all about you all as an organization.
And just for the listeners and viewers, if you want to see the material, the chart that she showed, I will post that on our website at kycpa.org, and it will be under the podcast heading under the news section. So, and thank you so much, Whitney. We are appreciative of all of your tips, and hopefully we can make the next transition to whatever that is.
Yeah, exactly.
At a little smoother way with utilizing these tips.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Have a great afternoon.
You too. Thank you.